Hi, you're listening to the NewSpace India podcast, a bi-weekly talk show that exclusively brings insights from the Indian space activities ecosystem. I'm your host Narayan, the co-founder of India's first space-focused think tank, Spaceport Sarabhai. Guests on the NewSpace India podcast help you understand space activities-related macro and micro trends within India in all aspects, including space history, local industry, space science, technology evolution, law and policy, art, and more. The NewSpace India podcast is supported by Dassault Systems, a global leader in providing businesses and people with collaborative virtual environments to enable sustainable innovations. Dassault Systems Solutions supports startups, small and medium-scale enterprises, and original equipment manufacturers in developing disruptive solutions for space launchers and satellites.
Good day to all. My name is Gnana Gandhi, retired from Indian Space Research Organization. I completed my engineering in 1968. Well, those days it is very difficult to get a job. And finally, I could apply for SSTC. Today it is called VSSC. Those days it is called SSTC. I got a call. Later only I came to know in my interview board, Dr. Kalam and Muthanayagam and Nabinarayanan and Mr. Mukherjee, they were all there. Still, I remember one of the question asked by Dr. Kalam. He asked, radiation is due to the power of what? Maybe my lucky number is 4. I said 4. I got selected. So I entered into SSTC. There are very few divisions. One division is called propulsion, which is headed by Dr. A.E. Muthanayagam. So maybe I was the 5th or 6th man. So you are maybe knowing those days, some of the place in near Tumba, it is got it from the fisherman community. They were sent to some other place. So I got a small tiled house to work initially. Those days there is no big buildings and other things. Very interesting. Generally they in Kerala they used to call Bhargavinilayam. It is like a ghost house. So they have given me a small mixture and I am supposed to start with mixing solid rocket. And at that time, the best fuel available in Kerala is the rubber. So we used to go to the forest side and collect the rubber and come back and mix with ammonium perchlorate. One Sriram was the chemical engineer who was formulated the composition, and myself and John, we used to mix. And you could, the size of the motor is only 50 diameter and 200 millimeter length, maybe about 200 gram. I used to fill with a cylindrical mandrel. I used to put it in the oven and later I will open it. Well, every time there was a lot of blowholes. So as a young engineer, I thought blowholes are not good for the solid rocket. So next time I put a 2 plate and bolted it and put it in the oven. Well, it was slightly near the beach side. So lunchtime, I had to walk a kilometer for the canteen. So I said all the 2 or 3 technicians. So we said, okay, come on, let us go for lunch. We have to walk. You believe it or not, within 10 minutes when we walked, there was a big explosion. So the oven was reopened. So immediately Murthy was the director of the turds and he came and the big inquiry and whatnot. So many things happened. So that was my first explosion. Of course, I am very notorious for exploding many rockets. And maybe because of that, towards my career, end of my career, they made me liquid propulsion safety officer also. But still, I didn't stop. I used to blast many motors. Well, then I was asked to do very interesting job is called charging. That is, the propellant grind has to be loaded inside the rocket and fix the nozzle and other things. It is little risky, but well, it is very interesting those days for a young man to do. So at that time, the projects were RH-75, RH-100, RH-200, RH-300 and RH-560. Good. See why you may call why 75, 100 and 125. The nearest industrial town to Trivandrum is Ernakulam. There was a extruded, aluminium extrusion company. They have a die for 75, 100 and 125. So whatever the tube available, we will collect and bring it and make the propellant, and I have to load it inside. So maybe hyaluron resin or araldate and all those things will apply, and then we'll brush it and put the nozzle and fins and other thing. The moment the rocket leaves the launcher, that's a great success for us. It is nothing we thought whether it is going to the altitude or anything, because that is the time we learn a lot of things how to do a solid rocket motor. So maybe I am one of the luckiest man. I worked from Sarabhai and Dhawan and U.R. Rao and Kasturi Rangan and Madhavan Nair, like that. So Sarabhai was there at that time. So when we made the RH-75, and after so many development tests, we kept it in the launcher. I think maybe Dr. Muthanayagam and Abhinarayan and myself, and we were all standing. You believe it or not, on the launch pad itself, the RS-75 exploded. So next time, like that, there are many incidents. Even Manaha was Kalam's project. And once, I think it took off and immediately plunged into the sea. So we thought it's over. You believe it or not, within few seconds, again it came up from the sea. So we thought Managa is dancing for Kalam. So that's the kind of thing we made those days. But each failure, each incident, we learned why it went to plunged into the sea. Maybe the guide, we put aluminium, but the rail is stainless steel. So the hardness difference with the minor misalignment, it could catch and then it dived inside. So like that, so many small things we tried to learn. So we did RH-125 is my boss, Dr. A.M., very good one, 2-stage, and we flight tested many numbers, chaff will go and all those things. And very nicely we started. You believe it or not, night and day we used to work. That is the kind of a culture we learned at that time itself. Maybe some small things like IPSO, we call it Rato motors, and other things also we did. And even I have taken one of the Rato motors to Raebareli, and we attached with the HF-24. And one day earlier, if I'm correct, Kalam was the leader for the project. So as usual, I used to talk a little more. So I said, I don't know who is the unfortunate pilot who is going to sit on the HF-24 tomorrow. Within few seconds, somebody tapped. When Sardaji was standing, I am the man I am going to sit tomorrow on the aircraft. Then immediately I said, no, my rocket is very good. I have done so many tests. It is fantastic. Then he said, okay, we will see tomorrow. You believe it or not, next day, without runway, the aircraft was taking very nicely. And that is the first good success I could see. And we enjoyed. We have come back. So solid motor got more and more interesting. So we started with SLV. So at that time, first stage, second stage, third stage, it was given to different group. Like first stage was with Muthanayagam, second stage was with Rao, like that. Then later, Brahmprakash was there. Then they thought it is not going smooth. So they made Kalam as the project director for the SLV. So they started working on that. And one of the very good incident is the fourth stage only first they started casting. So instead of charging, directly the propellant has to be cast on the motor case. Initially they made a very thick wall motor casing to learn the ballistics of the propellant, burn rate and all those things. So they made a very thick casing and they made it. After the casting, they removed the mandrel. Again, the same old problem. There was a very big blowhole. So they don't know what to do. So Dr. Srinivasan was in charge for that. So he came and asked me, Gandhi, I have to save the hardware. Can you remove the propellant? You believe it or not, you can only put the hand through the throat. So I have good technicians. So we sat and we discussed, and nicely they put the blade inside and removed the propellant, slowly everything. And one fine morning we separated into two halves and removed the propellant. I called Kalam and my boss and everybody has come. They appreciated like anything. Next day again, morning 8 o'clock, I came and I gave some instruction. By that time, some telephone rang. I went. You believe it or not, the whole building got burnt. And inside I have a lot of small rockets, all fired left and right. That was the biggest accident in front of me. I thought some of the technicians might have perished, but luckily they escaped. And I asked them to do the work. slightly on the edge of the door, near the door, so they could escape from that place. So then again, big committees, and I cried. Then they said, okay, if you are doing a work, definitely there will be a mistake, but you should not afraid of those things. You continue to do the work. So that is the kind of strength I got to work. And it was around 1973 or 74 time. And our boss, Dr. A.E. Muthanayagam, started a liquid propulsion work with 600 kg using white fuming nitric acid and aniline as the fuel. We started, with at that time, Sivaramarakrishna Nair is the man for starting the liquid propulsion side. So with Chandran, and they started the work. We small test, and there also minor accident happened. Somebody burnt the finger also after the acid has fallen, and all such things were happening. At that time, he had a very good vision. So Muthanayagam went to France, and at that time, the Yeldo project was not in very good shape, because you may be knowing almost like 13 flights they conducted. The first stage is built by UK, second stage is by France, third stage is by Germany, fourth stage is by Italy. And the flight tested at Australia. All the 13 flights failed. And even once they didn't put the igniter in the fourth stage. That is the kind of work. So they fought each other and they stopped that whole project. And finally, the French people, they took the lead. They started the program, Ariane program. Today, what you are seeing, Ariane 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So those people, they said, we want some technical, engineers from your side. We will give you technology for the transducer. Today, one of the best transducer, we call it 21NS2, Coimbatore, they are making today also. So they said, we will give you manufactured at your place. We will give you the technology. We will give you the machineries. You produce at your place and give 10,000 transducers. In addition to that, you give 100 man-years to work in our program. There is no money transaction. So happily we accepted. So some of the people, they went for transducer technology to acquire, and they have come back and they started PTU, pressure transducer unit in Bangalore. So parallelly, we started about 100 man-year. They selected to go and work with Ariane program in SCP in France. So luckily, I am also one of the person joined in the team. I reached, but at that, you may be knowing, if it more than 2 years, the government permitted to take the family also. So I took my young wife and we reached there and we stayed in Vernon. Near Vernon, one village is called Saint Marcel. I stayed there for 2 years. Maybe that is the turning point for me. I learned a lot. And I would say after the Second World War, many engineers were gone to US and some of the technicians went to Russia, and very few people, they have come to France. So we are lucky enough to work under one Mr. Berger. He was there in the V2 program. So I learned a lot. I would say, what is turbo pump, what is turbo machinery, how the injector works, what is the higher thrust engines, and what is the UDMH, what is N2O4, mixture ratio control. So many things I learned night and day. And maybe we have to attend regular office in SCP. After evening, Mr. Nambinaran was the head of the whole team. So night, again we will meet, and what we learned, and we have to write notes and all those things. It's a hectic program. So we worked, some of them they stayed, I stayed for 2 years and come back, and again they asked me to go there for another 8-9 months and stayed there, and I learned a lot, I would say. After I have come back here, we started realizing the VIKAS engine. The engine is called Viking in France in Ariane program, in Ariane 1, 2, 3, but we call it VIKAS. So we want to indigenize the whole thing in India. So I have been assigned with Kashi Vishwanathan. He is the fabrication chief. I was the number 2. I was the deputy to him. Well, it was, we were always on the rails in the train, going to Bombay and Ahmedabad and all these places to realize the hardware. That is the job is given to me. So after studying a lot of theory, I started learning what is hardware, how to make. KCT20WN is the material for the divergent, which is a super alloy. which, you may be knowing stainless steel, if you heat more than 500 degrees, that strength will come down very fast. But some of the material retains the strength. That is called superalloy. Maybe you might have heard about Inconel 708 and kind of thing. So this alloy we indigenized in Midani, and initially we imported. So if I am correct, the first thrust chamber we made it in Pune, Alfa Laval. So I was going there and sitting with them and fabricating the thrust chamber, and the turbo pump totally we fabricated in-house, first number. Not later we have given to MTR in Hyderabad. They are the people very good for, maybe some of you may be knowing, one Mr. Ravindra Reddy is a genius in machining of the components and other thing. Of course, he is no more. And he is my good friend also. So he only realized later all the turbo pump. And thrust chamber was given to Godrej, Mumbai. They are the good fabricators of stainless steel and good alloys. So the thrust chamber was fabricated there. The first engine, I think, along with me, on Jones Rabindran and Ramasubramaniam and P.S. Krishnamurti, and so many engineers are assigned to me with it. TM Ganeshan. So we all sit and, did the work. Those days, there is no 5-axis machine. We have only a copying machine. So especially the impellers for the pump, we have done with a copying. So the pencil will move here, the cutter will move here. That is a machine we imported. Now today, of course, you have gone 5-axis, now you have gone to 3D printing. So many advantages are there in front of you. But those days, we struggled. So the first engine I built in Bangalore, we assembled, and UR Rao came and he was very happy. And at that time, test facility at Mahendri just started and construction was going on. So we want to do the test. So myself and Sheshan, of course, all of you know, he was at that time, he was the secretary for ISRO. So myself, Sheshan, and our boss, Dr. Muthanayagam and Chandran, we went again to France and discussed with the SCP, can you test our engine in their place? So they said, first we will come and visit and see the quality of your hardware. Their big team came and I was accompanying them to all the industries. After seeing that, they said, please bring, we are ready to test your engine. That is the quality we maintain. So we took the engine and fired, and 2 groups we went. First group I was there and we have conducted the test, and it was a very grand success. And we have come back and Mahendra again we started testing. Today, all of you know that PSLV second stage and Mark II strap-on and Mark III core, all is powered by VIKAS engine. So I am very happy to tell that I am also part of a party to develop those days. Around when the complete productionization started, and my boss asked, why don't you change your curriculum to change to cryo? Well, I don't know much about at that time cryo. There was a study team in VSSC headed by Mr. Nambudiri. So they said the team will be coming to LPSC, our liquid propulsion team. So I was also attached with. So Mr. Nambudiri was the group director. I was the group head. With me, Mr. Ghosh and Sugadan and many people were there. Narayanan, today he is the director of LPSC. They were all with me. So we started the cryo program. So very interestingly, it has started. So as usual, what I was doing in solid with a small motor, I started with a single element using gaseous oxygen and gaseous hydrogen. And you know that it is not in hypergolic. Hypergolic means the fuel and oxygen, if you touch, it will burn because of the exothermic reaction. But hydrogen and oxygen, you require an igniter to initiate the ignition. So initially, I didn't get proper ignition. So people started making fun of me also. Then I tried to HIL and bring some, electric system there using in aircraft and all those things. Finally, I could get the flame. Then everybody said, oh, this is only gaseous. Both are in gaseous form. Even oxyacetylene in the street, you may be seeing a better flame. You use cryo. Then next, I reached Ernakulam. That is the industrial town. They have a British Oxygen Limited. They have a liquefaction plant. They have an oxygen plant. So I reached there. I asked, can I have liquid oxygen? Then nobody answered properly. Finally, one man said, you please sit here. So I was sitting. After some time, he brought in a wooden cage with a double wall test tube. a blue liquid. First time in my life I am seeing what is liquid oxygen. So I was thrilled. So immediately I asked, can you give some 50 kg? And he said, what man, you don't know anything about cryo. It is not possible to carry. So you are supposed to, make a tank, insulation and all those things. Then what to do? He says, Fedo is next door. You go and immediately fabricate some 50, 100 liter tank. Well, in ISRO, that is very good. You can act as a director also sometime. So I went and placed the order, and later I went and told my director, sir, somehow I placed the order, you please rectify it. Say, fine, this is only for our office. That's the kind of, it's not like a government, more than private, okay, I can say like that. So that is the spirit that, lot of work, progress was there. So we made the thing, and I bring the liquid oxygen, and with the gaseous hydrogen, I fired. No ignition. Then also people said, hey, what is this? What is going on in cryo? Then finally a blue flame came. Then everybody little bit appreciated. Then they said, still it is not full cryo. Liquid hydrogen you have to make. Where is hydrogen? Hydrogen is not in the air. Either you split water or you split the hydrocarbon. So what to do? So maybe at that time people, ISRO also, everybody import a lot of things. So I talked to Air Liquide, one of my friend was there. Hey, why don't you give some hydrogen for me? How much you want? 5,000 liter. No problem. When the tank comes to Chennai, the tanker will be empty, that's all. Because every day it will evaporate, so you will not get nothing. So what to do? He said, you put up a plant in your own place. So luckily, maybe you are Rao and my director, they have a soft corner for me. A 16 crore project, pre-project was approved. They asked me to start a small hydrogen plant. So I put up today in Mahendra, it is still there. It's called mini hydrogen plant. So we use helium as the refrigerant and cool the hydrogen to the lowest temperature. But of course, I didn't see the liquid hydrogen. It is very difficult to see. So the temperature shows 22 Kelvin. So I assume, okay, this is liquid hydrogen is there. So we have to fire. So in pressure-fed mode, if you want to fire, you require a double wall like a flask, a metal container with a high pressure. In India at that time, it was not available. So again, I put this thing. Mrs. Grisam and Air Liquide, if I'm correct, they quoted. And finally, as usual, okay, government, they say, why don't you negotiate and bring down the price? Then I asked Mrs. Grisam, why don't you come here? I want to negotiate. That fellow said, no, I will not come. Why? Well, in India, in roads, elephants and snakes are there. I don't want to come to India. That is the answer he gave. And finally, somehow I managed, you please land in Mumbai. I will come to Mumbai, we will discuss. So we discussed. Then he asked the final question, what are you going to do with this tank? Well, I want to fire rocket. Then he smiled and he said, Mr. Gandhi, I have seen last some dosawala or somebody in the near this thing. Even if you pour this one, the sound you might have heard. The liquid hydrogen is to minus 250 degrees Celsius. When it enters, it will immediately boil off and it will go. How do you know the propellant is liquid form inside? Good question. I don't know. So he says, you require a level sensor. Why don't you provide? I asked. No, it is very costly. If any change, then government procedure again, I have to go to so many these things. Then I asked, what is the other? Then he said, okay, maybe you looks like a good man. I will provide a neon trap. What is neon trap? He says, I will provide a neon in a small test tube at the top. When the liquid hydrogen comes, the color changes. So you will know what is it. Oh, fantastic. Then he says, okay, I will give you free of cost in the tank. After 6 months, the tank came. By the time my liquid hydrogen plant also started filling, so I put, by the time the single element I converted into 19 elements with YFFC copper with a channel, the outer has to be made because it's regeneratively cooled. The hydrogen cannot be directly injected. It has to take the heat and it has to become more or less in the gaseous form. So where to do, what to do? So Karaikudi was nearby, near Madurai. They are the electrochemist. They have a nickel bath, so they can deposit the nickel. So we take the grooved channels and put the wax, and over that we made that's one of the best work I feel we could do it at that place. Then we made the 19 element 1-ton engine. I fired. Big explosion. Second test, another big explosion. As usual, the dog started running, people started throwing stones. What this fellow can do, this thing. I also felt very bad. One day my wife asked why you are so much, tension and all those things. And I said, some problem. Then I thought, this hydrogen is like Maharaja. When it comes in the line, it will freeze everything. Nitrogen, all gases freezes, and moisture, grease, everything. So it goes and blocks the filter. The moment I put the igniter, it blasts. So if it is like a Maharaja, definitely there will be a Maharani to control. So who is the Maharani? Helium is the Maharani. So where is helium? Very costly again. But if you want to be in the business, you have to do. So I import helium. Within a month, we are very fast. We got the helium gas. We purged the line and allow the hydrogen. You believe it or not, beautiful test. So we all, happy. And URA was immediately sanctioned. You go ahead with the 12-ton engine for our upper cryo stage. So our team with Ghosh and Narayanan and Suresh, everybody started jumping. So we started the work. Well, good or bad. And the Russians came in 92. And they said, why you are struggling so much? We will give the technology. Of course, I have also not seen Moscow. I said, yes. So finally, U.R. Rao made me as the leader of the team this time. So with more than 25 engineers, I landed in 93, January 16th, if I'm correct. The temperature also minus 16. So we landed. Good. So we went and then we had a lot of experience. Maybe that is another way. Sometime I will explain, but it is not required. So we are in 3 places I located my engineers. One is near Moscow, about 40 kilometers, Kaliningrad. It was one of the place where all the missiles and other things, boron and other things are fabricated. Our cryo engine is getting assembled and tested at that place. So that is one place. And another place is DB Salute. That is also suburban of Moscow. There they are building the stage. So where that other stages are all getting assembled. So I have put another some 10 engineers there, including Bhatt and Sagabuddin and our Yagna Narayana and so many people there I put. And another team is almost like 2,000 kilometers away from Moscow in Ural Mountains. The place is called Uskatov. So I went by train and with my team, and you believe it or not, the temperature on the day was minus 35. So it is a remote village where only 2 people can speak English, one young lady and one old lady. They have come to receive me. So luckily they took me on the place to put me on a hotel. It is not a hotel, it's a house. I have to walk few meters. When I get down from the bus, I started, all of a sudden, some 20 kids, they were running and trying to touch me. So I was thrilled. They thought, I am so black. They thought I have come from some other planet. Because that village people, they have not seen such a man. So I was very happy. Because in my village, when white man comes, I used to run behind him. At least here some white girls, kids are coming behind me. So finally, next day, I was taken to the industry where the cryo engine was getting fabricated. Fantastic place from raw material to the engine. But I was not very happy. In the sense, some of the places they put the tarpaulin and they closed it. And some places they pushed me very fast. And some place milling machine and lathe, they asked me to stand for hours. I don't require that kind of technology. So I felt very bad. I don't know, even for me, this is the case. If I am in another 2 days, I have to leave. How my engineers will get the technology from them? Then day comes, next day I'm supposed to start. They gave me a big party. So, well, everybody started telling some toast. They asked me to give you a toast. And I said, well, director, I would like to say a small story. They said, fine, you tell me. In India, before marriage, we are not allowed to see the girl. Of course, not now. I'm talking 40, 50 years back. So one day my father came and he said, I am going to take you to a house. There is a girl for you, but you cannot say no. Then I said, if I cannot say no, why should I come? Oh, it is only formality. You come and go. I said, fine. So I went there and sat. You believe it or not, a girl come and all of a sudden left. I have seen little bit ear and nose and some lips. That's all I have seen by the time the girl vanished. Marriage was after 102 days. Every day night I used to integrate her face, how she will look like. Because minimally I have seen. Same thing here. You have shown me here and there little bit. I don't know what you are doing in this place. So immediately the director got wild. He's white fellow. He has become very reddish. What is happening here? Like that he started shouting. Then everybody, no, sir, like that. When are you going? Tomorrow morning. Cancel your ticket. I said, I am in the Ural mountains. If I cancel my ticket, when I will go back? Very difficult. No. I can decide whatever I want. You cancel. I cancelled. Next day, you believe it or not, all are opened. Everything was shown. So I used to tell my wife, you also party to my technology acquisition. So that is the way I, started. It's very interesting. So many interesting things happened, but I cannot tell everything. So it is like if you put a hand inside a honey pot, definitely you will put something in your mouth. So whatever possible we try to take. Maybe geopolitical situation is not good. I don't want to mention which country and other thing. There was a lot of pressure. Ask us to go out. So we planned to go for 1 year. Maybe around 10th month, they said, Gandhi, you can leave. Mr. Ronan Sen was the ambassador. And I have to say a few words about him. He's one of the best ambassadors. Maybe many people may be there. What I have seen is he is normally supposed to give the status to our place. So generally, they will ask me to write and send. So he will call me. He himself will write. He say, you dictate, I will write. That is the kind of, man. And any small problem he will solve. I had a lot of issues. Everything he will try to solve it. I really thank. Is a great man. He was sitting at that time. So that also adds to my, technology getting to India. I have come back. Instead of staying 1 year, a little earlier. With my boss, of course, I prepared a project report with my team. We have to prepare a cryogenic program. So I given to project to our chairman, Kasuri, and also in between he came along with Rao for how we are doing, and everybody was happy. So after I have come back, government has kind enough to approve the cryo program with the 300 crore project. I was the first project director. So I started the work. Whatever I have done with the 1 ton and 12 ton, slightly, we stopped it, and we start the whatever I have got 7.5 ton. We call it CUSP, Cryo Upper Stage Project. Well, it is a little very complex in the sense. In India, if you want to join any metal, we will think only welding. But in Russia, everybody will think only bracing first. If it is not possible, they will go to welding and kind of thing. So the inner wall and outer wall is braced, and our combustion chamber is inner is copper, outer is stainless steel. So joining is by bracing. The bracing furnace is a very big technology. I placed a one furnace in Godrej. And I have given the contract again to Godrej and MTR. Here, what are the important thing is being hydrogen is a very light. The pump has to run at 40,000 RPM. Then only you can pump to 140 bar. That too with 2 impellers. But LAX, very high dense, your small pump, it can pump it. So the RPM is so high, it is, rotor dynamics is a problem. You cannot apply grease in the bearing because at that temperature it will freeze. So the respective fluid has to go and cool and come out. Like that, everything is complex. So bracing and all those things are new technology. So I struggled a lot. Including the cutting the channel is a helical groove varying heliaxis. So I have given a contract, and finally after 6 months, the program, now maybe a lot of youngsters, they are having good knowledge in programming. Those days, I'm talking about in 95 or 96, so much difficulties I faced. Finally, that also we solved, and I have braced first piece. stainless steel and SS with a rotating furnace. Inside the pressure of argon of 2.1 bar, and in between the chamber is a vacuum with 10 to the power of -3. The whole thing has to rotate at 5 RPM and the temperature is 1200 degrees Celsius. So with that, I have braced. So I was there in Mumbai for more than maybe 1 month. I was going and coming back. So like a baby delivery, next day we have to open. So we opened. Believe it or not, first time in my life, I am seeing stainless steel cracked like a mirror into multiple cracks. So all my team fellows, they sat. We don't know what to do. We cannot go back to Russia because that time they said no more technology transfer. So you come. So I cannot progress. Then next one, same issue. Then Kasturirangan was the chairman at that time. He formed a national level committee. Good. You know that, lot of advice and so many things. Finally, we started from fundamentals of brazing and what all things. Same issue, like my solid rocket, I didn't allow the propellant to expand. I put a stamp so it exploded in the oven. Here, I didn't allow to expand. My copper is expanding in the chamber. I have put a stopper so it cracked. It's a liquefaction phenomena. It entered and cracked. So now we allowed almost like 10 millimeter. We expand with a stopper at the fluxures. Beautifully it worked. So like that, technology was improved and knowledge. So the first engine I built. During this time, I have given many small contracts to institutes like Anna University, IIT Chennai, IIT Kharagpur. And I have to say, Professor Sarangi, he is a cryo man. He was teaching cryogenic. He helped. Lot of things like stratification studies, this, that, and other things. Chennai IIT, they did all thermostructural analysis. So like that, because as a leader, I have to get all the knowledge available in India to pull everything, and I was trying to do the work. That is very important at that time. But still, there was a lot of delay and other thing, because the first time we are doing, many times we had. Well, first test, Kasturirangan was also there. Again, because I used to blast, but luckily this engine didn't blast. But a command line was very close to the divergent, it melts. So hydrogen valve was closed, so engine stopped and other things. But next one, beautifully it went. So the cryo engine was very successfully developed for India. And we planned. At the same time, when we went for first with this one, there was a program is first initially some 5-6 stages Russians they have to deliver to launch with our GSLV. Then only our indigenous stage will go. Even for accepting the stage, I used to go every time and accepting their stage and bring it here and coordinating with the GSLV for launching for the cryo this one. Parallelly, indigenous development. So out of 300 crore, 100 crore we spent for test facility at Mahendragiri. Bringing the liquid hydrogen tank and the liquid oxygen tank and liquid nitrogen and helium, whatnot. You might have seen the pictures and other things. We built the whole facility and then only we fired it. Then it went very successful. Then stage, lot of interesting thing. It is a tankage, should be very light. So isogrid manufacturing of the tankage, it HAL and polymade pipes and umbilical and pressurization system. So many things. So everything we coordinated and it's a big team, a dedicated team. And we developed the almost stage. Well, my hair also gray. So they said, you are already 60 years. Maybe we will give you 2 more years. They extended my retirement by 2 more. But still I could not complete the flight. But still they said, okay, be a, scientist, visiting scientist and be with us. Finally, we could launch very successful GSLV Mark II with our indigenous the happiest moment and this thing. Well, then after my retirement, Madhavan Nair was the chairman. He said, you please come to headquarters. So I went to headquarters. So first time he made a small group called the Directorate of Quality and Reliability for whole ISRO. He made me as the director after retirement. So I was there for 2 years, and maybe because of the family, one of my daughter was here and delivery and So I said, sir, why don't you leave me? Then he said, okay, you go to NRSA and sit there and work. So I came to NRSA Hyderabad and I was doing work from here. And later also I used to go for most of the meetings and other things. And in between, I thought I spent a lot of government money or public money to develop this engine. Something I want to do for public. What can I do? So I thought the hydrogen I love too much. So why not use the hydrogen for a public? So the only way is to use it in automobile. So simply I lifted phone, I called someone in Mumbai, Tata Motors. Anybody is doing R&D on hydrogen bus? Yeah, just we started something in Bangalore. One man is there, one Mr. Why don't you talk to him? He has given the name. So immediately I talked to him. He said, sir, just now only we started. We will be very happy. So I put up a paper. At that time, Perumal was the director of LPSC. He said, no issue. I will give whatever help you want. Madhav Nair also said, you please do that. It is for the country only you are doing. So Tata Motors, they gave 5 crore. And ISRO gave a place, a lab and everything at Bangalore. So I came to Bangalore. I started working on fuel cell bus. So 3 years I struggled. And we got 100 kV one from Ballard and integrated the hydrogen full system. And we estimated almost 28 kg to load at 200 bar in the bus so that the bus can run for 200 kilometers. You may have seen now Delhi and most of the cities, it is pollution. If you want to make pollution free, it is not immediately required to run the bus between city to city. Only the city alone, if you do, the city will get breathing good air. So that is our aim. So 200 to 300 kilometer I have estimated to run. For that hydrogen it was stored. So the first bus I run in Mahendragiri, because Mahendragiri we have hydrogen free, So maybe because of my interaction with them, they allowed me to work. So the first bus I ran in Mahendragiri. So it was nothing happened. I was inside the bus. So we could run the bus more than 4 kilometers on the day. Then later they have taken the bus to Nano project in Ahmedabad. And today I think it might have already crossed more than 80,000 kilometers, the single bus. They built another 6 bus. I was coordinating with them. I was the only guiding for them because ISRO said that one is development over. Now we cannot go on supporting. Let them do separate this one. So I was advisor for them and it was going on. Later, when I used to go to VSSC, one young gentleman used to come and meet me. Sir, I am going to start a startup company making rockets. Will you be my advisor? I started laughing. Rocket? You are going to make? Yes, sir. How many years experience? I have 8 years experience in Trivandrum. What will you do for propellant? He says, sir, I will explain. He started all. I was thrilled. Young man. If I would, the government job is more secure and all those things, and seventh pay commission is giving so much money and praise, so many things are there, but he wants to leave and start. I appreciate the courage and the passion he has. And 2 people, Bharat, of course, I first met only the Pawan. So I said, fine, I am in Hyderabad, so I can come and, So like that, we started in 2018. I joined with Skyroot. I was the maybe 5th man or 6th man I joined. We are all together. So they started solid rocket. Okay, with, now most of the players, solid rocket is made in solar. And his aim is to use all new technology, cutting edge technologies, like go for fiber, carbon fiber, motor case and kind of thing. And I appreciate, I don't think. So he asked me the first Vikram 1, they require control rockets using N2O4 and UDMH. So he asked me to design and all those things. Plus, the final stage, 4th stage should be a OAM, orbit, adjustment, this thing. So I initially designed 850 Newton N2O4 UDMH engine. We fired, went very successful. and pulse mode also. That also went very successful. Then he asked, sir, we have to go for Vikram 2 with the cryo upper stage. You have to start. So we studied. And one thing even though I love hydrogen, very difficult to handle. Because 22 Kelvin and cost is also very high. The production cost 1 kg of hydrogen maybe today 4,000, 5,000 rupees. So if you want to have this propellant as a booster, the cost of the launch will be so high. For a private company, it is not good. So we selected LNG as the fuel. Liquefied natural gas as a fuel, which is only 100 rupees like petrol. Okay, more or less the same price. So why don't we will start liquid oxygen and LNG. LNG is new to me. I have not done in ISRO also. I called again my youngsters. They started, a group of youngsters, very good boys. Everything there, a lot of good RPA. You put it channel design. I might have taken 1 month. These boys will bring within 2 hours. This is the result. Wow. Okay, injector. There are many different ways I used to do those days with bracing, this, that, welding. Now 3D printing. So I visited myself and Pawan. We visited in Bangalore, some of the places. Finally, I could catch hold of in Pune. Amit Sen, a very good 3D printer. So he says money is not important, sir. Technology is important. Such people are still, it's very important to tell in India that is the kind of persons, people are there. Recently, last week, I visited to take a delivery of a thrust chamber. Fantastic. You believe it or not, the channel is so small and he could print without even a block or anything. That's the kind of the technology today we have. So I have built a small test rig and 1000 Newton engine. We fired about 6 months cryo engine. To my surprise, the first time itself, it has come very successful. Here also the ignition is by again a torch igniter. That also has worked very well. Now we are asked to do a 2000 Newton. Maybe in another few months you may hear that also the engine is ready. So that is the kind of thing we are doing it. Maybe he is a young man. He has lot of ambitious program. He wants to develop very high thrust cryo engines and go forward of this one. So, well, this is basically these are all my life I have spent. Maybe the whole life I was busy with rocketry, and I enjoy with maybe. Somebody will ask, what is your age? I used to say 25 years with 50-year experience. Maybe that's all. So, because nowadays also I used to mingle with very youngsters. My mind is very, clear and happy to get their interest and their knowledge when they are coming out, how much they are understanding power. Hats off to my youngsters.
Thank you for listening in to this episode of the NewSpace India podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, please share this episode with anyone you believe will enjoy listening to it. You'll be able to find the NewSpace India podcast in any of the podcasting platforms that you may be using, including Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and others. Do subscribe to the podcast in case you want to receive new episodes automatically. I'm grateful if you're able to leave a rating for the podcast, which will help others discover it. Thank you for listening in again, and the next episode will be out in the next 2 weeks as usual.